we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs, unidentified submerged objects, also known as Usos, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files.
I mean, that list. Wow. Chris Lehto, welcome to LehtoFiles. Exciting news for disclosure and transparency. Representative Anna Paulina Luna hosted a press conference just yesterday, 3 p.m., February 11th, with House Oversight Committee Chairman Comer. Very exciting. She is going hardcore into basically all of the conspiracy theories.
Thank you all for being here. Today is a great day for transparency in America, because today I'm proud to announce the creation of the Task Force on the Declassification of Federal Secrets. This task force will be a part of the House Oversight Committee and led by the very talented and persistent Congresswoman from Florida, Anna Paulina Luna. During her time on the Oversight Committee, Representative Luna is a sledgehammer against government secrecy. She is committed to throwing open the windows for the American people to allow the sunlight of truth shine on the federal government. I can think of no better person in Congress to lead this task force than Representative Luna. Last month, President Trump signed an executive order to begin the process to declassify information on the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and MLK. This task force serves to build on President Trump's actions. For far too long, the American people have had reasonable questions of what their government, which they fund every day, keeps hidden about certain issues. And for far too long, the federal government has not answered these questions. This creates distrust in our institutions. That ends today. The voters of this nation delivered a historic mandate to President Trump on November 5th. The keystone of that mandate was demanding increased transparency of their government and elected leaders. And the mandate of this task force is to acquire that transparency. We will open this up for questions from the media, but first I'd like to hand it over to my esteemed colleague and chairman of the new task force, Congresswoman Luna, for her remarks.
Okay, first thing, I am extremely excited about this. I know there's tons of political divide in the US. I see in the comments, I made a video on will Doge actually find the secret government retrieval programs? And it's amazing just the level of anger that's going on in the United States. I can understand. But I think we should all realize that it's actually the giant bureaucracy. You know, I left the military. I was in the Air Force for 20 years and I left as soon as possible. And I think, like most people in the military, if you understand what I'm talking about, is the bureaucracy is so ungodly, painful, and just soul crushing. And I think it's just taken over. And so whatever your political affiliations, I think transparency and just fraud and waste of taxpayer dollars, I think everyone can get behind that. And so I'd say, yeah, I know there's a lot of anger there, but transparency and looking into these government secrets is what we've been asking for so many years. And I know maybe it comes at the wrong hands. Like you wanted it to be, from the Democrats, if you're a Democrat or you're overly excited, you finally believe it's Republicans at this point. But at any case, I think in the disclosure movement, any sort of transparency is good. So the fact that they're building this task force, I think, is just amazing. And if it comes at the hands of someone like Trump, then so be it. I say we need disclosure, we need transparency. It has to happen sometime. And, I try and set your political affiliations aside and just realize that going for transparency here is an amazing breakthrough. So we'll see. Let's hear what Anna Paulina Luna says about it.
Thank you, Chairman Comer. When our founding fathers stood against tyranny, they did not merely oppose taxes. They defended the sacred idea of individual sovereignty. They declared that no government, agency, or title could infringe upon the freedoms of speech, religion, thought, and the pursuit of truth. For too long, the American spirit has been dimmed by a veil of secrecy, by a government that has grown too comfortable in the shadows, denying us the transparency we deserve. But today, we stand at the dawn of a new era where the light of truth begins to shine through. A few weeks ago, President Donald Trump made a historic announcement. With the stroke of a pen, he committed to declassifying the files concerning the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a decision not just monumental, but pivotal. It is with profound honor that I have been entrusted by Speaker Mike Johnson and Chairman James Comer to lead the House Oversight Task Force on Declassification of Federal Secrets. Together with the help of the White House, our intelligence allies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs, unidentified submerged objects, also known as Usos, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files.
I mean, that list, wow, that is unbelievable. I was blown away that we got the JFK records, not only the JFK records, but we had also RFK Jr. assassination and Martin Luther King assassination. All of those records are held secret. And we've already seen a lot of, I would say, effery involved with the JFK records, right? The FBI just found 2,400 records that were not included in the assassination review board. They just weren't even included already. So it shows that maybe elements of the federal government, such as the FBI, are actually looking into this, actually looking into it. And then despite all the years, right, the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act was signed in 1992. And total records was 5 million. They say over 99% was released as of June 2023. But then they just now recently found 2,400 files that weren't even included. I mean, it has been, what is that, 33 years, and they haven't released them. And all it takes is him signing an executive order. It's unbelievable. And here we are 11 years later, right? And they've just been dragging their feet. The bureaucracy comes up with some other rule, some other law, some other board that they need to meet with. They're going to release some of the records. And then all it took was just Trump's brazen ass just signing this executive letter. I mean, love him or hate him, apparently you can just sign an executive order saying that, yeah, we're going to release the JFK files. I could not believe it. So that is coming. And then the FBI finds that there's 2,400 files not included. And they forwarded that to the White House. And of course, everyone is up in arms already, which we should be, right? I mean, what are they hiding? And incidentally, this is from a post later that night from Representative Anna Paulina Luna. She said, the first hearing my GOP Oversight Task Force will focus on is the JFK assassination. I plan to bring in a few people, including an individual from the Assassinations Records Review Board, as well as someone from the House Select Committee on Assassinations. Deep state mouthpieces are attempting to twist my words. Cope harder. So it looks like the JFK files will be the first hearing. That's the first task that they're going after, which is not UAPs, but as we've all speculated in the conspiracy theory circles, is JFK could easily have stumbled upon the UAP program, the crash retrieval program, and said that he was going to out this into the public. You know, that's the famous memo. Is it real or is it not? 10 days before he was found murdered. That's the famous memo, 10 days before he was assassinated, alleged from JFK to the head of the CIA saying, I want to see all the UAP files. So this will be docket 1, and we're going to have open hearings, and including an individual from the Assassination Records Review Board. I also love that we have a House Select Committee on Assassinations. We have a House Select Committee on Assassinations. Yeah. So,
with the help of the White House, our intelligence allies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs, unidentified submerged objects, also known as USOs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files.
Just hearing that list again is just so amazing. So she says unidentified aerial phenomena. So it's not anomalous phenomena, right? It's aerial phenomena. That's how the government calls it. And so they added in there USOs, unidentified submerged objects. And USOs have been a key term going on, especially with Admiral Tim Gallaudet. He's pushed that out at the West Coast, Guadeloupe. Apparently, there are 5 hotspots. Tim Burchett said that recently online that he knows about, undersea hotspots, if you will. And from what I understand, Guadeloupe is one of those. Near where the Tic Tac was found, essentially, is some sort of hotspot. So unidentified submerged objects, if you think about the planet, most of the planet is water. Where would alien craft or civilizations tend to hide would be in the oceans. So think of The Abyss, that movie. Love that movie. So I think USOs is a key part of that. Another amazing thing she mentions there is the Epstein list. The Epstein list. Wow. Again, this is just a conspiracy theorist dream hit list. Where is that list? Will we ever see that list? It has to be out there somewhere, right? It just feels like sooner or later the Epstein list is going to come out, and then what's going to happen? How many of our elected and unelected bureaucrats are on that list? Amazing stuff. Then COVID origins. I think we've already seen lately. I know there's a ton of it's controversial, of course. I know many people don't want to hear it, but it looks like USAID actually did funnel money to Wuhan lab. They're still looking into that. So where did COVID actually originate from? Was it funded by taxpayer dollars? Can you imagine that as well, that we funded the gain of function research that led to COVID and patient zero? And then finally, 9/11. I have a lot of friends that are very emotional still about 9/11. It's been 24 years. I can't believe it's been 24 years since 2001, 9/11. But I think maybe it's been enough time now. I mean, I think 23-year-olds weren't even alive when 9/11 happened, if you think about that. Wow. And so could we actually look into 9/11 now with an objective eye? I think it's still emotional in many people's hearts. But I think enough time has passed now, 2 decades. It doesn't even feel that long, but we could actually look into 9/11. So amazing stuff. I hope UAPs and USOs don't get buried here among the other things. At least she said it second and third. But I think JFK directly relates to UAPs and USOs. So I think it will lead into that. Either way, more transparency is obviously needed. I mean, these are some huge, huge issues. And I think it'll only strengthen the government actually to open transparency and just right the wrongs of the past.
This task force will be a beacon of bipartisanship. On the Republican side, Representatives Burchett, Boebert, Burleson, Crane, Gill, and Mace will be joining me, although I'd like to note that I'm expanding this to the entire governing body and will be allowing certain members to waive on. Our first hearing is set for March. The date will be announced soon, and we've already initiated close to a dozen communications with various agencies, to include Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice and the Secretary of State. This will no longer be a task force that makes bold promises only to fade into irrelevance or send strongly worded letters. This will be a relentless pursuit of truth and transparency, and we will not stop until the American people have the answers they deserve. We will cut through the bureaucracy, challenge the stonewalling, and ensure that the American people finally get the truth that they have been denied for too long. If we are to endure and thrive as a nation, we must restore trust through transparency. The American people must be trusted to think for themselves, to form their own judgments from the truth that they are entitled to know. We've been treated like children for too long and kept in the dark by those we elected to serve us. It is my solemn duty to begin mending this trust, to form a new relationship between the government and the governed. Let us embark on this journey together towards a government that does not serve, but one that enlightens. That does not just serve, but one that enlightens. Trust through transparency, that begins now. Without further ado, we'd like to open it up for questions, as I'm sure many of you have those. Hands up.
Thank you. Obviously, your goals are aligned with the administration's on the declassification of Martin Luther King and the Kennedys. How would you handle if you end up, whether it's President Trump or Attorney General Bondi or DNI Gabbard, if they disagree
It's a long
with,
question.
you
I
know,
can't hear
what
what you're
you're
saying.
looking to declassify on a certain topic, whether it's UAPs or 9/11 or something like that? How would you handle
Still
if,
asking.
there's, some stuff that they don't necessarily?
Well, certainly, I think that they'd be supportive, being that they're advocating for this. But also, I want to remind the American people that this is bipartisan. There's also Democrats that are looking into answering these very questions. But certainly, we would share that information with the American people. This is about transparency. And I think, again, as I stated for far too long, there's been a massive push to keep the American people in the dark, and that ends today.
Yeah, I really hope we hear more Democrat names on the list. I just don't think this needs to be a polarized issue. It seems like as soon as it becomes a Republican or Democrat issue, then it just gets weeded down and lost in the noise. So I hope it doesn't become a partisan issue, but unfortunately it's all pushed by Republicans now, led by Tim Burchett, Burleson, Moskowitz, Luna, and Mace. Hopefully we can get more Democrats on the list. I think transparency should be a push for all Americans.
You have severe health.
Chairman?
The task force does not have subpoena power. I do. The task force is going to be subsidiary of the full oversight committee. So if we have to issue one, Congresswoman Luna, we'll discuss it and we'll take appropriate action.
But in full transparency, we have a great working relationship, as I stated earlier, with the White House, with the DOJ, with the Secretary of Defense, and the Secretary of State. The incoming FBI director, I think, will be very supportive, and we've also been told that the CIA director is very supportive. To put in perspective, I think that this issue transcends not just one administration, but multiple administrations, and it hasn't been until now that we've been able to get people actually in positions of power that will push for transparency. Now, if I find that different entities in the various intelligence agencies are stonewalling us, I'm going to make that known to the American people. But as of right now, we are cautiously optimistic.
I mean, that's huge news. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, we've seen him in the past. He's obviously been briefed by what I believe would be Jake Barber and his team. He's been briefed by very high level senior officials, if not just Jake Barber, other people within the DoD, within the military industrial complex. So Marco Rubio is definitely involved. John Ratcliffe, CIA director, he's also pro UAPs. Talked about, she mentioned there, the incoming FBI director. It seems like all of these people are pro transparency all the way up to the president. And so I know so many of you really dislike, up to hate the current president, but the administration is pro transparency. So I think we can at least all push for transparency. And I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? I mean, if we can get transparency, then does it really matter which organization brought it? If transparency works, then it will feed over into the other party. So if one party succeeds over the other based on what they're doing, isn't that what we should support?
What's your priority list? Is Epstein, 9/11?
Our first investigation will be announced, but it's going to be covering on a thorough investigation into the John F. Kennedy assassination. And I can tell you, based on what I've been seeing so far, the initial hearing that was actually held here in Congress was actually faulty in the single bullet theory. I believe that there were two shooters, and we should be finding more information as we are able to gain access into the SCIF, hopefully before the files are actually released to the public.
Okay, I have to play that again. It sounds like she said we know there was two shooters. That would be pretty amazing. Let's hear it.
Investigation will be announced, but it's going to be covering on a thorough investigation into the John F. Kennedy assassination. And I can tell you, based on what I've been seeing so far, the initial hearing that was actually held here in Congress was actually faulty in the single bullet theory. I believe that there were 2 shooters, and we should be finding more information as we are able to gain access into the SCIF, hopefully before the files are actually released to the public.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds like she said it right there. So the SCIF is your special compartmentalized information facility. So that's going to be your top secret facility, right? Faraday cage, essentially. No information can get in and out unless you can remote view it, etc. But basically saying what we've all thought for years, right, is that there was a second shooter. Was it the grassy knoll? I've also heard it was just the driver leaned back and shot him. Some other video online, unknown. But yeah, it sounds like, yes, obviously it was a conspiracy and there was a second shooter. If there's a second shooter, then there was a conspiracy, right? So that would prove that right there. Okay, interesting stuff. Could we actually be getting answers to this? That was so many years ago. Think about that.
Thank you for doing this. Have you identified the Democrats who will sit on the task force, and could you talk a little bit more about the role of Democrats?
Yeah, so again, this is a bipartisan commission. Remember, JFK was a Democrat, RFK was a Democrat, and I'm sure that I think the entire conference has a question on what actually happened with Dr. Martin Luther King, but also UAPs. You guys know that that was the biggest bipartisan bicameral hearing that we've ever had, I think, in congressional history. I do not know who their members are yet. They've noticed it, but they're taking this very seriously. This is not a conspiracy theory investigating committee. We're actually looking to present truth to the American people. And it's in my opinion that no one person elected to office is more important or more qualified to look at the information that they've been hiding from us. And so we look to push for that transparency.
Okay, so she says there will be more Democrats they're putting forward. Yeah, I really hope this becomes bipartisan. I would love to see an equal number of Democrats and get on the transparency train, right? Don't make this a partisan issue. I think as Americans, we need to tell our representatives that we care about transparency. And if you are a hardcore Democrat, then tell your Democratic representatives that you care about transparency, right? They should be on this. They should be on this board, and maybe they can take over, right? What if they find the information? Great, then we can support them. Like I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, right? I care that you're supporting transparency in our government.
What sort of witnesses will you expect to have at your hearings? I know you said the first one's in March. That be department heads, former employees of various
Would you like to jump in? Yeah, I was going to say, based on what we're actually looking to do with the JFK investigation, I'm looking to actually bring in some of the attending physicians at the initial assassination, and then also people that had been on the various commissions looking into, like the Warren Commission, looking into the initial assassinations. There's been conflicting evidence, and I think that even the FBI at the time reported some anomalies in the initial autopsy at Bethesda, Maryland. All of those, though, seem to have been rinsed and repeated in the media to push a certain narrative that we don't agree with. And so I think that in order to put to bed some of the theories that have been out there on John F. Kennedy, we have to know the full truth. And the full truth starts with transparency. And that's why these files is so important for the American people to read for themselves.
With this task force, what are you hoping to uncover as far as UAP that you have not already heard from other UAP hearings?
The biggest information problems that we've had with UAPs is the amount of stonewalling, stovepiping, and also it seems that there is this push to gaslight the American people into looking at the evidence and then not fully believing it. I think for us, if we're writing the budget, for example, into the Pentagon, if we're writing the budget overall for whatever programs might be out there, why is it that members of Congress who are given a top secret security clearance are being denied access? That's not a free and true government. And so for us, especially being that we have now a Secretary of State who's actually open to declassification and Marco Rubio, we're hoping to present that information and at least acknowledge it from a government perspective that we are not alone, but also let's see what the evidence is.
Okay, yeah, I think if you followed the channel over the past 2 years, you've just seen courageous attempts from our congresspeople, right? And senators as well have been crushing it. So we've had Chuck Schumer, Mike Rounds, so bipartisan in the Senate, as well as Marco Rubio in the Senate. So we have seen bipartisan efforts, but really in the House, we've seen just courageous efforts by this caucus, right? This UAP caucus of people who were at that hearing. I was at the hearing in 2023 with David Grush, David Fravor and Ryan Graves. It was amazing, and it was packed. You could not get into that hearing. I barely got in. I was the last one in the room, and it was just amazing. Like she said, it huge demand from Americans and the populace just wanting to know what is going on. They hold all the cards. And she said right there, now we have a Secretary of State who's willing to declassify this stuff. It seems like times are changing, and we could actually see the democratic process work here, where we have people in power actually releasing the information. And she mentioned there, they don't have oversight. So if you have a top secret clearance, you're in the Congress, you're in the oversight committee. Literally, your job, mandated from the Constitution, is to represent the people and do oversight of the government. That's literally their job of the oversight committee. And then they're stonewalled and blocked. Like she said there, obviously something is wrong. Something needs to change. So it sounds like there is a chance it could change.
Yes, in fact, the letters went out this morning, not just on RFK, JFK, and MLK, but on everything that I had listed above, to include UAPs, Epstein, and 9/11 and COVID, to the State Department, Department of Defense, CIA, and then also we'll be sending some to the FBI, and letters have also gone out to the NSA.
Wow.
Well, what's interesting on that specific committee is what, to my understanding, when they actually brought in expert witnesses, they weren't actually people that were in attendance to the initial autopsy at Bethesda. But also, this is a bigger committee than just the JFK assassinations. We're also expanding into Epstein, COVID origins, 9/11s, and then UAPs and Usos. And so before, where we initially had some of these hearings, this is going to be an encompassing committee that's going to work directly with the White House on information that they're declassifying. Yeah. hmm Correct. Correct. There's actually 3 different government investigations into the JFK assassination. But again, this committee is expanding not just there, but outwards into other fields. And again, we're working directly with the White House. In previous investigations, they didn't have access to the information that we are going to have access to. And so that's a big deal, especially if you're looking at what truly happened with JFK.
That's just amazing, right? How did they not have access? How did they not have access in the past? Unbelievable. I think it shows like those 2,400 files that the FBI found. They were not privy. The original assassination review board did not have access to those files. Can you imagine? Just ridiculous.
I already have a top secret clearance. All members of Congress have a TSCI.
So all members of Congress have a top secret compartmentalized information clearance. That means they should be cleared. They have the clearance, right? They've done the background checks, they've gone through the huge pain in the ass OPM process, right? To get their background reviewed to make sure they're not some spy. And by the way, all of our data, all of the information in OPM, Office of Personnel Management, was leaked, stolen, whatever, given to the Chinese, right? All of our personal information. This is where people complain, oh, the government has access to your social security number. It's like, dude, China knows everything about me, where I grew up, my friends growing up, my deepest, darkest secrets, like literally hundreds of pages of data, social security numbers of all of my friends growing up. They went and knocked on my friend's door years after, to where now he doesn't talk to me anymore because he was tired of men in suits coming and knocking on his door wherever he lived. He wouldn't give me his address anymore. Now we're no longer friends. Like it definitely added pressure to our relationship. And then they lost all of that to the Chinese. So people that are complaining that, the Doge team's going to get access to social security numbers is just a joke, okay? Because they have access to so much more. Oh, it's just ridiculous. So,
The question is do we get SAP access, of which Chairman Comer has been very supportive, and we'll be getting SAP access as well.
yeah, they should have access. SAP is special access program, and that means you have to have need to know, and that's where they're stopping all these Congress people from looking into these programs, is they say that they don't have need to know, right? You have a bigoted list, a very short list of people that can actually get access to that program, and that's how you keep the information secret, right? You keep it compartmentalized. No one knows the full information, and then you keep the list very, very short. And that's how you keep these programs super secret. And that's what they've learned over many decades. The problem is Congress has a need to know, right? These people have a need to know. The American people have a need to know where their money is being spent. Our tax dollars, are they being spent on the retrieval, the capture, shoot down, whatever you want to call it, of anomalous craft, right? We're talking non-human intelligence craft. Are they using that to reverse engineer and then not telling us, keeping us totally in the dark? Is that what's going on? We have a need to know. And that's written into the Constitution that we have a need to know. The problem is the bureaucracy has gotten so large that they're locking the door on our Congress people, right? Which is messed up. That's totally messed up. So you heard right there, everyone in Congress has a TSCI clearance. They should have authorization to all these programs. Total BS that they don't. It's just stonewalling. And I think this is what it's going to take, is just programs being shut down. That's what you're going to have to do. Just fire those people that are locking the door on you. Just fire them. Replace the people and then get access.
Okay, 2 more and then we're going to wrap it up.
Obviously, some of the questions on some of these topics, whether it's Jeffrey Epstein or COVID-19, the questions are obvious. What specifically, though, are the questions you're looking to get answered with regards to September?
We just want the truth. How much did the CIA know in advance? But also remember, when you have only certain information that's shared with the American people, that's when conspiracy theories happen. And it's in my opinion that conspiracy theories can be detrimental. It doesn't mean that in the last couple of months we haven't been right on a few things. But what I will say is I think that we deserve to give this information to the American people. I don't agree with the stonewalling that's occurred. And also, how do we prevent things like it from happening in the future? And we have to know the full picture, and the American people deserve to know that as well.
Can we expect any collaboration with the Department of Government Efficiency?
I don't know what information Doge would have, but I would encourage them, if they have anything on JFK, Epstein, or anything in between, that they bring it to our office immediately. Okay, 1 more and then we'll wrap it up. Of course.
The other Democrats, and that is cultivating a relationship with President Trump and has been critical of sanctuary law.
Can't hear it again.
What do you hope to uncover with this hearing?
Well, we have a lot of questions. Some of the people in the mayor's administration have been vocal that they weren't going to comply with federal law, that they were going to continue to act as sanctuary cities.
Please ask a question related to what we're talking about, right? Are we talking about illegals and sanctuary cities and all this BS? No, we're not. We're talking about... Yeah. So she said there that she thinks conspiracy theories are detrimental. It's not conspiracy theories are detrimental, right? The word conspiracy theory that was invented by the CIA to literally point the finger somewhere else, right? Who's asking these questions, right? The people that came up with conspiracy theories. So the conspiracy theory that there was multiple shooters at JFK sounds like it is correct, right? So it's not conspiracy theories that are detrimental. Okay, that is the truth in that case. So what's detrimental is lack of transparency, right? Not telling anything, keeping things locked up secret, and then pretending like nothing's going on, that we're all idiots, right? That there wasn't a second shooter when there's obviously a second shooter. They just said right there that there was a second shooter, right? Which is just amazing. So how much more are we going to find out about UAPs, Usos? I can't wait. I'm very excited. I would say, please try and put aside your partisan anger. I know I get a ton of comments on my last video. Will Doge find the information? And it's like people have kind of lost their minds. I think transparency is good. Whoever's doing it, if it's your enemy that's finding transparency in our government, great. Then we should take note. And then if it's working, tell your congresspeople, hey, look, can you please support issues like this? You know, why does it have to be the other side that is finding this information out? Why can't you do it? And so I think whoever's in charge, we need to be supporting transparency and open disclosure. So very excited for this measure, and the hearing next month is going to be awesome for the JFK files. Can't wait. Sounds like there will be a second shooter. And then I don't think it's conspiracy theories that are detrimental. It is the lack of transparency. So will we actually get transparency? Let me know what you guys think. So please hit the like button if you did like this video, and then share it to get more information out, make it easier for other people to find. I'll continue to keep you updated and give my points on the amazing changes going on. 2025 has just been a breakthrough year. I think try and put the bipartisan anger aside. What's going on is amazing. We are getting actual transparency. Some of these walls are breaking down, and like you saw there, we will have a task force. Hopefully, it will be bipartisan. If you are a Democrat supporter, please contact your representatives. I talked to James Fox, and he said that, yeah, the representatives love to hear from their constituents, and they listen. So if you say, please support transparency, please get on this, take this over, make it a Democrat issue then. But what we don't want is it to be partisan. So let me know what you guys think, if you're excited for this, in the comments, and how far you think we will get in 2025. Go to patreon.com/ChrisLehto if you want to support my work and get exclusive videos. I just published some background behind the scenes with Jim Segala. I have an interview coming with Jim Segala on Friday. Really excited about that. His MooPass project is amazing, and I think it really could prove experiencer accounts. It really could prove data from experiencers, which would just be miraculous, right? So huge, amazing stuff going on in the UAP community. So excited for 2025. And if you want to go to our sister channel, UAPSociety, they have a weekly news show. Amazing stuff from Ali and Justin. And then finally continue the discussion on LehtoFiles Discord. All those links are in the description. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.